Hello, welcome back to the Reading Mama. My name is Heather. Today I want to talk to you about pirate books. Now, hear me out. I didn't think that I liked pirate books, but there is just something about them, and I have really fallen in love with them and found some really good ones. So I'm going to share some of the books that I have read that are piratey, and then also some that are on my TBR currently. So I'm going to tell you first what got me back into a pirate mood, and then I'm going to share some that I do with my kids, as well as some others that have been really good. So what really started me off recently into reading pirate books was the Royal Rose Chronicles by Victoria McCombs, which is a trilogy, and I read it on an ebook, so I'll pop a picture up here. But I absolutely love this. Think magical pirates. That's really all you need to know, magical pirates. And she has such a great, it's fast-paced, it's witty, and she has such a unique magic system throughout it. Just very many components of magic throughout, and folklore kind of intermixed with it, and I really loved this series. It's clean. It does have romance. I feel like the romance didn't come into play really much in book 1, a little bit more in 2, and then obviously more in 3, kind of build, slow burn there. But it wasn't, I don't know, I didn't feel like it was a romance book necessarily when I was reading it. Looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, obviously. But it was a lot going on because you have a young girl whose mother is the pirate queen. She has, we believe, died. And she and her brother are left to fend for themselves after their father also dies. Her brother has gone to join the pirates, and she's said, I'm not doing that. But she discovers she has the same wasting away disease as her father, and the only cure is to go to this distant land to get these things. Well, luckily her mother's trained her before she disappeared in all the pirate ways, and so she joins her dear friend who used to be part of the Royal Guard to go on this mission, and a lot of things come. There's a lot of political intrigue that goes along with all of these different things, but it was a wonderful, wonderful series. Highly recommend it. So that was my gateway pirate book. But when I started thinking about it, I was like, well, I do read some pirate books with my kids. And many of my kids have read Peter Pan. We have this really beautiful copy that has some cute little illustrations. Peter Pan is always fun. You have all the pirates and the insanity that goes along with everything in Peter Pan. Hopefully you all know about Peter Pan, if not from reading the book, then from the Disney movie, but the book is different. My kids, only my older kids have seen the Disney version, and so when I read this with my younger kids, it's a whole different experience than my older kids, and I absolutely love it. And then we have Treasure Island, which I also have around middle school age, my kids read. My last daughter who read this handed me the book at the end of the year and said, can I burn this? No. My other kids enjoyed it. I think it kind of just depends on the kid, but here is a wonderful classic literature that I think everybody should read at some point in their life, because you have the wonderful story of young Jim Hawkins, who's working in his tavern with his mother, and they have a debt, and they're trying to deal with all this, and nefarious characters show up at the tavern, and he gets sucked into the pirate world and goes on this big adventure with the infamous Long John Silver, and Black Spot is introduced, and all of these different concepts that are very just kind of a given for most of us in pirate world, but my kids have not experienced. Also, growing up, I don't know if you guys remember the movie Treasure Planet, but I was obsessed with that, and that's a sci-fi riff off of this, so but I digress. Really love it. There's some really phenomenal audiobook versions of it if you or your child is struggling to get through, because it is older English writing. It's Robert Louis Stevenson. He has a very specific way of writing that isn't for everyone. Audiobooks are the way to go. Next, I want to talk about some other books that I've read recently. Hunt of Calypso. Now, this is book 2 in the series, and book 1 is not a pirate book. Okay, this is part of the Grimoire and Key series from Erin McPhillips. Sorry, that's my sister-in-law's last name, Erin Phillips. And this is a Count of Monte Cristo retelling. Book 1 starts with the very beginning with the betrayal of Eden on a young girl, and you follow a young man, and it's very much a fantasy reimagining of what's going on in Count of Monte Cristo. This is like the middle of Count of Monte Cristo, which Count of Monte Cristo also a little bit of piratey in there, but in this we go gung-ho. And again, it's magical pirates, so there's a lot going on. They have these magical star maps that you have to know the rhyme to be able to do, and people guard it because the sea is the hidden sea, and there's magic upon the sea, and so you have to know these special rhymes or whatever star maps to be able to get to any of the islands there, and only the pirates or the coureurs, I don't know, it's French and I can't do French words. I don't know what they're called. I call them cahures. Who knows how you're supposed to say it? But they're basically pirates. And they're the only ones who know how to travel the sea. Nobody else does. And this one gets into their life because, yeah, there's just a lot going on. If you know, in kind of Monte Cristo, he's in prison with somebody who has access to a treasure. Well, in Betrayal of Eden, she's in prison with a pirate queen who has access to a treasure. And so kind of get to go through that story, and you get all the wonderful, amazing piratey things. I really loved it. Book 3 is coming out, I think, next year. It's called Revenge of Venus. So keep that in mind. Then I read, and I'll put it up here, I read as an ARC. It just came out last month, I think at the very end of the month, and it's called Veil of Deceit by A.R. Como. And I absolutely loved it. I'm looking for book 1 over here. So it's a riff off of her first duology, which I haven't read yet. I have the books sitting right here next to me. But Veil of Deceit takes one of the side characters in that first duology, Finn, and it follows his story. And you have arranged marriage going on, you have a heist being planned, and you have forced proximity, enemies to lovers, all of these things kind of going on with it in a romantasy, and very clean, very sweet humored, very witty, very fast paced, and it was one that, it just gets fast, it ramps up as you go through it. I really loved all the characters in it. I loved the difference in the characters. I don't feel like the characters were all repeated. I feel like there was a good difference among them, and that was wonderful, and it ends on a cliffhanger, so I'm desperate for book 2, but this one just came out. But Veil of Deceit, I highly recommend. Earlier this year, I also read Dust and Shadow. It's a duology by Kara Swanson, and it is a Peter Pan reimagined. And I don't have it, I'll put a picture up here, but Dust and Shadow is a very unique, interesting way of going through Peter Pan as if, and I don't want to give things away, it is very heavy and very dark, deals with a lot of depression, self-harm, and guilt, and other anxiety related issues in a very unique way. And I really don't want to give things away, but you start out with a young girl whose twin brother is missing, and she doesn't know where. That he was obsessed with Peter Pan, so she believes that he ran off to London, to go visit, to try to get to Neverland. But she can't find him. She's, been in and out of foster care. You have all of these bad things happening in her life, and it just feels like it's compounded. And she's dealing with all of that. At the same time, things have gone awry in Neverland, and Peter Pan is earthbound and stuck here at the beginning of the story. And these two people end up meeting, and you have a lot going on. Very, very interesting. You do have a bit of a romance in there towards the end, but it deals a lot with some heavy topics, but it was so phenomenally well written. Highly recommend. And the last one that I've read that is a parody book is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This was my first Brandon Sanderson, and I absolutely adore it. My oldest read it last year. She loved it. It's hilarious. I think for us, it reminded me a lot of the Lemony Snicket's books, the series of unfortunate events. And then it was just like witty and out of left field, and you just are like, what just happened? And it was just so funny throughout. So in Tress of the Emerald Sea, you have Tress, who has grown up on this solitary, excluded island, I don't know what the right word is, and hasn't had contact with the rest of the world. And she has somehow developed feelings for the Duke. I want to say it's the Duke's son. Maybe it's not a Duke, who knows, but for the man in charge, his son. Well, they go off on a tour of the world, and when the Duke, we're gonna call him that, comes back, his son is no longer with him. And he had been sending her cups from all his different voyages and telling his interesting story of how he was trying to keep the women away. And basically she says, I'm gonna go rescue him. So she goes on a journey and leaves her island and goes to rescue this man in distress rather than damsel in distress. It is crazy, wild pirate thing, because instead of seas, you have spores. And I understand he wrote this, I think, during 2020. So you see a lot of that coming out. But the spores and different kinds of spores do different diabolical, horrible things. And you have to know how to deal with it, and you can't let them touch and mix and there's all kinds of, it was a strange magical system. And somehow it relates to the Cosmere. You get a little bit, I'm just new to the Cosmere, just a baby Cosmere person. But it does have a few tie-ins like that. I believe there was Hoyd. I think Hoyd was in there, but I just didn't notice. Anyways, hilarious. I think this is a great gateway, Sanderson. Not that all his books are like this. His other books are vastly different. But they are so fun and exciting and hilarious that you want to keep reading. So that brings me to my TBR. So I'm going to go through some of the books I have on hand that I have, and then I'll give you some of the ones that I don't have. So this is a nonfiction that I'm going to read with my kids, my teenagers this spring, and it's called Terror of the Spanish Main, Sir Henry Morgan and His Buccaneers by Albert Marin. We love Albert Marin books, if you've probably seen one of my videos. And he just talks about the Spanish Main and the pirates and the life there. And I love his style of writing. I like that he will have a topic. So like he's going to mostly talk about Henry Morgan and his Buccaneers, but he'll talk about other things going on in the world and how it influences it. Really great. I picked this up at my local bookstore down in Danville, Indiana, called Author's Patch, and it's Becoming Hooked by Mary Meacham. I unfortunately could not go the day that she was there signing books, but I went ahead and picked it up. I like Mary Meacham's writing. It's very funny, very fast-paced. She's very witty, good with banter. And this is actually a 6-book series. I don't know if I'll read the whole series or how hooked I'll get on it. But this is a villainous Peter Pan retelling. So we're focusing on Hook. And I love this very first sentence on the back. It says, James Hook never meant to become a pirate and never dreamed that he would turn against his best friend Peter Pan. So I'm very interested. I'm not reading more. I try to not see too much when she shares on Instagram, but I'm looking forward to that. Also, for an early birthday present, I bought myself the Robin Hobb Farseer trilogy, and I'm really excited to get into this. I'm very much an epic fantasy person, and Farseer is one that everybody recommends. I know they're all crying when they finish it, but I don't really know anything about it, and I'm not even going to look into it. I just know it's an epic fantasy that's pirate based, and I will tell you, like, I have the other books too. This one, decent sized. It's like, what, not quite 400 pages. The others get much, much bigger. So if you are somebody who gets intimidated by big books, you may want the audio version. Other books I'm looking at is The World of Narrows by Adrienne Young, and I believe it's a trilogy. So I've seen Fable and Namesake, but when I looked it up, they also listed Last Legacy. And I don't know much about it other than it's a YA piratey theme that people just rave about. And it says, welcome to a world made dangerous by the sea by those who wish to profit from it, where a young girl must find her place and her family while trying to survive in a world built for me. For men, I think is what it's supposed to say. I think I cut it off. Built for men. So, like I said, piratey, YA, I believe it's a romantasy, looking at that. I also, in September, like right before my birthday, The Pirate Queen by Ariel Lawhon comes out, and I will really be wanting to read that. So it is based on a true person, which I always love that about Ariel Lawhon books. I'm new author to me, and I've really enjoyed it, but it's based on Grace O'Malley, who was a sea captain. And it's a legendary Irish folk heroine who risked everything to defend her people. And I'm not going to read any more other than that's what it's about. It's called The Pirate Queen, and I just know this author is wonderful. Other books I've seen and want to look into is Night Weaver, a YA romantasy. Yeah, don't know anything else, and I'm trying not to read much about it. Then Daughter of the Pirate King is another YA romantasy, but you have to find a hidden map leading to legendary treasure. She intentionally gets captured by a rival crew, and from what I understand, it's more of a heist focused for Daughter of the Pirate King, so that's exciting. One I've seen is Stardust and Silence by Ashley Willingham. I really want to read some Ashley Willingham, and my library doesn't have it, so I've been patient about that. This is a Little Mermaid retelling, which I don't like. Little Mermaid, I don't like that story at all. But it's a space fantasy, gender flipped retelling of The Little Mermaid. The space fantasy, like, ooh, that's my bread and butter. So it sounds interesting, and I'll have to give it a try. And then On Wings of Ash and Dust by Brittany Wang is a YA fantasy following Quinn, a rebellious pixie pirate. Seeking to bury her royal identity, she is forced to compete in the Ethidine, a deadly magic-filled competition for the fairy crown against rival clan heirs to avoid execution after her twin brother dies. That is a lot going on in one sentence. That's a lot. And so I have all of these on my TBR kind of going into my pirate era, like I said, and enjoying that. If you have any other pirate wrecks, or maybe some of the ones on my TBR, you can point me in the direction, like definitely do that one, might want to skip, let me know. Because like I said, it's kind of a new genre to me, and I am looking forward to reading more of it. But I have really enjoyed the books I have read, and I've been able to get a lot of them digitally, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much to authors and libraries who make that happen for those of us who cannot own every book, though they want to. Thank you so much for watching, and have a blessed day.